Welcome to the Digital Knowledge Transfer Podcast. It's our first podcast of 2024, so wishing you all a very happy and successful new year. Now, as always, we're here in Studio 92. We are recording this podcast, as you might say, in a traditional way. We've got a studio, we've got audio equipment, we're filming it. However, a trend that is becoming increasingly more common among consumers and in businesses as well is something called social audio. So instead of having all this equipment that we've got here today, people are increasingly using their smartphones to record podcasts or social audio in a short form, just using no equipment at all, just doing it on platforms. And one of those platforms is called Limor, which is a short term for less is more, which is a social audio platform based here in Ireland. And I'm very happy to have the founder of the platform, Shane Monaghan, with me here today. Shane, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for having me on your traditional podcast.
Traditional podcast, yeah. And we're going to talk all about the difference between a traditional podcast and the new form of social audio today. But before we get on to that, Shane, you've an interesting background. So obviously you're an entrepreneur, you've done lots of things, but what a lot of people won't know is that you were a professional rugby player before the world of Limor.
Yeah, in a past life that is getting further and further away from me as the years go on. We're in 2024 already. I can't believe it. I retired in 2015. So it was my original passion and dream to be a professional rugby player, and put all my heart and focus into that from a kid from the age of 12. And I was very lucky to have been involved in some of the best teams in the world, starting off in Ireland, obviously local rugby club here in Drogheda, Boyne RFC, originally Drogheda, which amalgamated with Delvin to become Boyne, and worked my way up through the Leinster system, was Leinster Academy player, underage, Irish international as well, and then would go on to play with a few different teams. Unfortunately, in rugby, you don't get the transfer fees that you get in soccer. but was with Connacht, Rotherham in the UK, Gloucester rugby, where I would have played most of my professional rugby, and then finished up with Munster World Cup cover in 2015, and actually came up with the idea for Limor my last season in Gloucester. And it was a great thing to have that focus and passion for something new outside of rugby, that essentially I plugged out from rugby and plugged straight into the Limor vision. And that's what I've been doing full time and focused on that for quite a while now, but really happy to see where things have gone in the market, where we are with our product now. It was great that a lot of the predictions I would have made about where podcasting and voice was going to go in 2015 have happened and are still growing and still going in that right direction, and very, very excited for 2024. It's going to be a massive year for us and everyone in the space, including yourself in podcasting.
Hope so, yeah. But going back to 2015, we all knew what a podcast was, but it seemed to be the domain of specialists. I mean, what got you interested in that world in the first place?
So another thing I would do outside of rugby is I would paint portraits of rugby players. So art is another thing that I really enjoy doing. And there's a funny story how I got started doing that again off the back of my career in Gloucester. It was a Secret Santa present. I ended up doing a portrait of Mike Tyndall, who some people may have known, who's a big podcaster now himself, and the good, the bad, and rugby. Big shout out to him, Adam, to him and James Haskell. And essentially, that's how I started listening to podcasts. It was around 2012. I was painting portraits, and I heard of these things called podcasts. And on the surface level, it's just like, it's just like radio. It's just audio. You listen to it, and it's fine. But the experience is actually very, very different when you start listening to them, and I found them very entertaining, educational, great way to pass the time. But I could do my artwork at the same time, something you can't do with visual. With reading or video, I couldn't concentrate and complete art. So I found them brilliant from that perspective, and really fell in love with the medium. And then it was Christmas, December 2014, when I had my spark for the idea, with my dad, actually. Peter Monan's involved in the Drogheda City Status group, and for local listeners as well. And he actually wanted to improve the marketing or help get the message out there for the City Status group, because they were a certain demographic of people who weren't big into marketing or social media or anything like that, and were getting quite frustrated about the messaging. They did all this great work, no one knew about it. So I said, Dad, you're a really good speaker. I've been in a good few meetings, some amazing conversations, meeting some amazing people. You guys need to start a podcast, long form. And his answer to me, like most people at the time, was, what's a podcast? When you say that now, people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Everyone knows what a podcast is. But then 9 out of 10 people didn't have a clue what they were.
Well, everyone knows what a traditional podcast is now.
Correct.
But we're going to get on to social audio.
100%. And that was the seed. I said, what's a podcast? So I showed him some examples, and he said, amazing. I love it. Great idea. How do I do it? And that's when Dad, you need to basically have what we have here now. You need headphones, microphone, recording device, laptop, desktop, learn how to edit, learn how to produce, He's like, whoa. Too much information. I'm not interested. That was the seed for essentially Limor, because they had all those barriers to entry, and it's like, wow, how can we make it simple and easy? And the design term less is more came to mind. So for someone like my dad, or anyone who instantly wanted to start creating a podcast or audio content, how could we do that? And I started diving into I have a degree in product design as well, so I finally got to put it into use. It's the whole life cycle of a product, and great design comes from solving problems. And I started identifying problems in traditional podcasting. One is the barrier to entry, like my dad. Everyone suffers from that. But once you do make the jump and the leap into traditional podcasting, there's a lot of other issues as well, like the production, like the organization, like the editing, like the distribution, like search. And a major issue with traditional podcasting as well is they're not interactive. So we're in the era of social media, and podcasts are not social, which is crazy again when you actually break it down to that. So I said, right, how can I solve that problem as well? How can we make podcasting and the creation of audio content easy, instant, and interactive? And that was the seed. And it's been a long journey to get to this point of raising money in the whole entrepreneurial story that you often hear about. Sure. to build it. And I didn't have a clue about technology, and I learned a lot about the pros and cons of technology and get to the point we're at now. But a lot of valuable lessons have been learned to get to this point. But we're in an amazing position. We have a fantastic product, and the marketplace has caught up with the idea, which is often an issue. A lot of founders of, innovative ideas encounter is they're far ahead of the curve, and the marketplace isn't ready for it yet. Because as I said, when I started raising money for this, people were like, oh, hold on. You want money for what? What's a podcast? Explain that to me first. And we were talking about social audio, which is beyond podcasting, so...
well, I think they call that having vision.
Yes, that could be another way of looking at it, yeah, definitely. But it's been fantastic, and I've met some incredible people. I've, from a business perspective, built an incredible network. So many lessons learned, and as I said, I'm really looking forward to 2024.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about social audio at the moment. So in the video world, we're all now familiar with shorts and TikToks, where the way people consume video has really changed dramatically over the past couple of years. Instead of viewing what we would call long form videos, if we get a video these days that's over a minute long, people consider that long. Most people like to use little 6-second videos, So is that type of thing happening in the social audio world as well?
Oh, most definitely. The thing about Limor, looking at it first and foremost, is a toolkit to allow people to create audio content, long form traditional podcasts, but short form audio as well, that doesn't have to be confined to the traditional podcast form of content. It allows you to create any form of audio instantly and share it. And you're seeing that in the podcast space as well. People can easily consume audio content. It's not as easy to create and distribute. In video, it's very easy to consume, but it's also very easy to create, because every phone has a camera now, and you have platforms like a TikTok or an Instagram and shorts and reels and stuff like that. So that technology is there. People are used to that. It's easily accessible, and it's interactive, which is a key part of it as well. That isn't there yet in the audio space, specifically podcasting. And there is a shift that is happening, said in the content creator space, where people are finding that the long form content isn't enough because attention spans, you need the hook to get people in to listen to the long form content, and that is driving the short clips of podcasts. So if you can get someone to watch or listen to a 2-3 minute clip of a hour long podcast and go, Jesus, that sounds great, I want to listen to the full podcast, it's very effective. We are providing a technology for people to be able to do that, but also because it's interactive podcasting, you can talk directly with the host. So for example, hopefully this traditional podcast may be available in Limor in the future, who knows, people could listen to us and ask us questions directly in voice comments, so we can reply to them directly with our voices, and it actually takes social interaction to that more human and personal level. So you build real relationships because the passion, emotion, context, everything comes across so much better when you use your voice as opposed to text, you know? So there's that, and then there's obviously other technologies which we can touch on as well in terms of the adoption of voice activated technology, which is going to change the world as we know it. And what you see in the movies often is followed in real life, and the Iron Man suit and Jarvis and talking to the technology and the technology talking back to you is on its way. And the best way to begin that journey and enter the space is by podcasting, you know. So both long and short form, and with Limor have the option then to do the short form. And again, the format, as we mentioned, this is a traditional podcast. It's sit down, it's episodic, it's long form, which are fantastic, and I love them. It's not for everyone. So some people mightn't have the need or the capability to create this type of content, but they would like to do 3-minute updates about the stock market, or tax policy, or legal, or just do a 3-minute review on a movie they just saw. With Limor, the short form, like 2-3 minute type of content, you can do that straight away, share it straight away across all social media. So it's convenient and easy to do as well. So it's the less is more philosophy across all aspects. So keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid is a phrase you often hear.
Well, that's the classic marketing
phrase,
isn't it?
That's it. So if you can provide that toolkit for people, it'll give them the entry level drug as well to traditional podcasting, because it gives them the confidence then to learn about the audio space and say, geez, I really like this. And if you're getting direct feedback, that's one of the hardest things for podcasters as well, is to get feedback about their show, what they're doing well, what they're doing badly. And usually the ultimate metric to get, and the only one, is the amount of downloads they get.
Yeah.
That's it. Unless you go to the other platforms and really push hard on the other platforms to try and get that feedback. Well, with our platform, you can actually get direct, instant feedback from your listeners. And that's a great motivator as well if you're a content creator too.
Yeah, and I think obviously what Limor is doing is taking the likes of this studio and basically putting it into an app that people can easily produce their own things. And if you like, the awareness of short form voice content at the moment is, it might not be something that everyone's aware of at the moment, but you and I would both know, Shane, that, you know, the likes of Clubhouse have been out there for a long time, which are a big platform now. How do you see the engagement of social audio growing and developing over the next 5 years?
Well, if you look at just podcasting, traditional podcasting, there's currently globally, there's around 465 million listeners globally. I think it's around 8.8% mark of all internet users, which is a massive number. And it's still quite a niche marketplace. They predict that that's going to rise by the end of this year to around 505 million.
Yeah.
In the space of 12 months. And that's just traditional podcasting. If you can introduce a technology like Limor and expose the marketplace to that, and you have the right marketing behind it as well, something that you know very well, you can see the adoption rate going through the roof. Like our product, again, we've never fully marketed Limor. We've never done a strategic marketing campaign. If there's anyone listening who's a big check and they want to invest into it to help us do that, please do. But we did do a campaign where we put some money into basic SEO ads, no strategic partnerships, no influencers, nothing like that. And we got just under 250,000 downloads globally. Wow. Which is unheard of these days. And that was about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. the marketplace has exploded even more since then, and we're preparing now with a new product, as I said, a new aspect of Limor we're going to be integrating in the next few months, and do a campaign with that, with strategic push and marketing. So the opportunity is absolutely massive. It is still virgin territory. Even traditional podcasting marketplace really is virgin territory. What you're doing now, like some of the stats that are coming in from the likes of BuzzFeed, which are one of the top web hosting platforms in the world, all Spotify and Apple and all the main players are fed through BuzzFeed. For you to become a top 1% podcaster, over 7 days, you only need 5,080 downloads, I believe. Mm-hmm. So that's to be a top 1%er in the space of podcasting.
Yeah, it's relatively easy to achieve at the moment. Now that won't be the case in a few years' time, but at the moment it can be done.
Oh, and that's why now is the time. As I said, virgin territory. It's kind of like back in the gold rush. The guys who got there, it was obviously the guys selling the shovels made the most money. So hopefully we'll be doing that with Limor, providing the shovels. But the guys who got there first got the most gold. And it's the same in the podcasting space. People who actually get into the space, but there's other caveats as well. It's first to the gym doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the best body after 12 months. You have to actually do the sessions and do the hard work and be consistent, which is key. But the ones that do stick at it and have a good strategy and who are consistent get into that 1% group and do extremely well, not necessarily just for their podcast, but their business, if they're involved in businesses as well, to grow their network and create awareness. And as a marketing tool, it is the best and most effective marketing tool you can use.
And we'll talk a little bit about businesses and how Limor has got specific product for businesses. But one of the things that I think is really interesting and very exciting about the social audio market is if we think of, so everyone does know what a traditional podcast is, but the shorts, the equivalent of the reels and the shorts and the TikToks, I think that's a hugely untapped opportunity at the moment, because somebody who might think that they might like to do a podcast or even might like to communicate something through voice, they're almost not aware that that's a growing thing at the moment. And I think once that wave takes off, we're going to see a bit of a hockey stick curve in that. We're going to see so much more content coming out in the form of social audio shorts. And also, I know that's something that with some of the corporate clients you work with, you can help and advise and consult with them on that to give them best practice advice in terms of the content side of things, as well as providing some of the tools.
Yeah, definitely. And again, with the technology, like the adoption of smart speakers, that interaction, there's going to be a lot more engagement with short form audio content, which are, standalone pieces of content. As I said, it could be information on the stock market today. You only need 3 or 4 minutes to get that across, or it's a hook into a traditional podcast or a full podcast itself. So that technology is definitely going to make an impact there. But yeah, what we have, as well as the free to download app, which you can get from the App Store or Google Play Store. If you want to download it when you're listening to this, you can set up a profile and instantly begin consuming and interacting and creating your own audio and podcast content through the app. We have a B2B offering as well called Limor Enterprise, which is focused, which is focused for corporates. And we offer something, to my knowledge, that no one in the world in the space of podcasting or technology can offer currently. And that is, we would go to a corporate and they would purchase a yearly subscription for their corporate profile. It's not an individual, it's an entity. So let's say you would go to a large national newspaper. Journalism is a great example of that. They would purchase the corporate profile. They would go to their 100 journalists. They would all set up their personal individual Limor accounts that is free and individual to them. We can then link those accounts to the corporate profile. You now have 100 podcasters instantly, anywhere, anytime. For journalists, that is incredibly powerful. So you could be in Lansdowne Road, Ireland versus England and Six Nations, and bump into Mike Tyndall. He's getting another name drop here today. And you could say, Mike, could you give me a 2-minute review on the game? How come England lost to Ireland again? Get that and instantly publish it to the newspaper profile. Yeah. Or someone at the Oscars in LA, Colin Farrell, why didn't you win the Oscar?
This is one of the great things about social audio, is the immediacy of it. I mean, if people just know that if they've got an app like Limor, all they need to do is just talk into the phone, and if they're plugged into these tools, the immediacy of getting news out there and we all want to consume news instantly or information instantly these days. But I think that's one of the great features of this whole world.
Yeah, and I said the interactivity. So you can instantly talk potentially to Mike Tyndall or to the journalist itself. Like if you listen to a 3-minute social audio cast that's put out by a journalist, you can talk directly to that journalist and get it. What did you mean 2 minutes in that you have to have a steak medium rare for it to taste the best, and they could come back, well, what I mean by that is a better tasting, so on and so forth, for any topic. And that's what's really exciting about it. And it brings that interactivity to the audio, which is the most efficient way of creating content and putting it out there. And again, the passion, context, emotion, relationship build as well. Because oftentimes, in text in particular, if you send a text message with capital letters, people go, why are you shouting at me?
Yeah.
I said, no, I had cap locks on by mistake. Or if someone's in a bad mood and they read something wrong. But when they hear your voice, and if you're calm or you're collected and you understand, right, I don't agree with you, but I understand where you're coming from. And the human aspect is brought into it as well. So that's a really good thing. And that's something I love about the platform as well as I've built relationships and friendships with people I've never met just simply through voice content. And we gave an example. You're a very accomplished runner, which I didn't know, learning things about yourself.
Thank you for the plug.
I know, very true. And there's an example. Ray Gerard is a guy on Limor, and he just put out a cast 54 seconds long, first cast of the year, talking about how he went for a run on one of the first or second days of the year. And again, that's the way he connected. And you heard his voice. He gave a little giggle, a laugh. And he's like, geez, that sounds like someone that I could engage with and be...
Well, that's the beauty of it all, isn't it? And it's so easy now. I think it's just there's a massive awareness growth that's going to happen with this. This is why that whole world is so exciting. But I guess we can't talk about anything in the marketing technology world without touching on AI.
Yes.
And
what's that mean again? So stand for?
I've forgotten. But what about AI interfacing with social audio at the moment, Shane? Because obviously we're talking about having AI as part of our technology stacks. What's happening on that side of things?
Yeah, so full stop, AI is going to change the world for the better, hopefully. Obviously there's lots of potential issues there as well, but in the podcasting and audio space, it's just going to change everything. Full stop. It's already what I've been exposed to and seen in terms of the technology AI space is incredible. Generative AI is already exploding from a podcast, and this is people who again just want to achieve podcast content very quickly. Like you can script up a podcast via text and it can be converted into audio. Someone speaking, you'd have Morgan Freeman recording your podcast for you and put it out there instantly, but you're still getting that result of the audio experience. And I think that marketplace is already valued at 3 billion, something crazy. And then there's other aspects of it as well. Voice sentiment. AI will be able to listen to your podcast or a voice comment and say, Shane sounds a little bit down today. By a little bit, let's push content that's uplifting and positive towards him. So that's obviously going to be huge in the mental health space to help people in that side of things. Then you've got another massive one as well. I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek or...
I'd be mildly interested.
So one of the things people often ask is, how can Captain Kirk understand that alien's language? Because they have this plot hole or plot point that is a universal voice translator, so they can all speak the same language. AI is going to do that for voice as well. So essentially, we record a podcast here in Ireland on Limor. Someone in China will hit play and we're speaking Chinese perfectly with Irish accents. So these are just surface level of what's coming down the line, and another reason why you have to get involved in the space. If you're a business owner, if you're a marketer, if you're in any way involved in content creation, now's the time. One, the opportunity, as we touched on already, but where technology is going to go, it's going to change the face of the planet. And then other things as well, voice commerce, buying and selling via voice technology and voice content. So where things are going to be going with that is we'll be here. Who's sponsoring your show currently at the moment?
At the moment, the name is embargoed. I'm not allowed to say.
Sorry.
We're paying so much money and we're doing it so secretly that we have to keep the name under.
Hopefully Limor will be able to partner with you. But say Limor is sponsoring the show. We'll see what happens for a new corporate affiliate for B2B. But we'll be able to say, guys, if you want to purchase Limor 10% off, just say buy now. So people are listening to this, driving in the car, and they say, buy now, purchase made. Boom. Just like that. You apply that across all forms of marketplaces and technology, and the easy creation of audio to be able to create those ads to sell your product. So if you're a personal trainer, or if you're selling shoes, or if you're selling coffee or whatever. So people are bought into you and your business and your product and believe in you and your passion because of the voice, human aspect of it. And the trust, which is the foundation of all relationships and sales. And they trust you. And then you say, by the way, you can get my new t-shirt, 10% off if you're a listener, and just say, Steve, I want your t-shirt. Boom. Sale done. That's going to change the face of marketing and purchasing as well.
And just in terms of the reach then, because voice social media obviously is going to grow a lot, but is that an opportunity for monetization though, in terms of Limor's reach and other voice social media platforms reach, in terms of bringing advertisers, bringing partners in, that type of thing? Is that something in the future you see to be, at the moment advertisers are using regular social media platforms, not exactly exclusively, but they're always part of the media schedule. Is that something you will see in the future for voice, Shane?
Oh, 100%. Again, this is, follow the money. There's a reason why podcasting is exploding. It's not just because it's a great medium, it's because there's a lot of money to be made. The global podcast market valued around 30 billion. That's all aspects of it. Mm-hmm. So there is money to be made there. And again, there's a certain top percentage are making most of that money because they've done what we said. They've focused on it and they've built an excellent brand. And people say that, there's oversaturation in podcasts. That's complete nonsense. Again, that's it's not factual. Like I use the comparison a lot of the times is there is globally, there's around, again, it's difficult to tell because the way podcasts are distributed, you could have the same podcast on Spotify, but there's around 4.3 million podcasts globally. That's it. And of those that are active, it's around 450,000. Now, if you compare that to Instagram, there's 2 billion Instagram profiles. Exactly, yeah. So that's not true. So the people that go in and focus, they make money because they're getting the attention, they're getting the ears, and that's what sponsors and marketers want. And if you can go back, and again, there's another issue with podcasting that Limor is solving and aims to solve with the help of AI and that moving forward, is the analytics and the data that comes with that, because podcasting analytics are very inaccurate compared to every other form of social media due to the nature of how they're distributed, RSS feeds and all those different platforms. But even at that, marketers still want to pay. So if you can say, I get 10,000 listeners a month in the niche of coffee, and we can show through the link clicks and all that of those 10,000 listeners, we're getting 500 people a month are clicking and buying our product, that's going to be, X amount of reach for you. Listen, that's very, very powerful for marketer or brands. So to be able to do that and show the engagement, because you don't have the interaction part yet. Mm-hmm. So if you have, we got 10,000 listens on our podcast on Limor, but we also got 200 voice comments, and the average voice comment was 2 minutes long. That's massive engagement and interaction and relationship build and trust as well. So that's where things are going. And that's what's, again, so exciting. It's obviously a slower burn than I would have liked, but we're still in an incredible position. And as I said, the B2B one, working with major corporates is very exciting as well, because they're seeing the potential in it. And sometimes people, corporates are often the slowest to change. But I found our turn, you use the speedboat versus the oil tanker analogy for turning. But in fairness to them, they are very, very open to the podcast space because they see the value and it suits them. And corporate messaging is longer form, and their clientele are becoming podcast consumers.
I think once you get your head around social audio, it's actually easier than other in terms of the production, the distribution, everything else, and the possibilities with it. It actually, beats is the wrong word, but it actually has quite a few advantages over video-based or other content forms in many different ways, I think.
Oh yeah, big time. And as we were discussing just before the show started, video is very unforgiving. If you make a mistake on video, or if your hair's out of place, or you're wearing a bad t-shirt.
Thankfully, our hair, both looking good today.
Perfect. Yeah. That's the only thing. I'm not wearing my Limor branding. Excuse me, guys, if you're. But just imagine a LIMOR with a big yellow Limor on the front, if you're listening via audio. But it is, and people focus on that stuff. And that's it's just the human mind, and how the mind works as well with visual. The work is done for you in video as well. Whereas if you're listening or you're reading a book is another, your brain does the work, and your imagination has to kick in, which means the attention and the thought process and everything is so much more powerful. And the emotional connection, audio generates twice as much emotional activity in the brain versus visual or text. So again, from a marketing and business perspective, you have twice as much chance of hooking that person into your content with audio. And it's more convenient and better for multitasking, talking about the painting. You can do other things while consuming and being entertained and being educated. So whether you're going for a jog, or in the gym, or cooking, or a painting in my example, or whatever it is, and that's another great advantage of that. Or working in the office on Microsoft Word, and you have a corporate CEO is talking to his employees, or training, sales training, so many advantages, and people are only starting to scratch the surface of that with traditional podcasting. But when you have the toolkit to make it more accessible and easier and interactive, it's very exciting.
Extremely exciting. And then just last question, let's go back to Limor. What exciting things do you have coming up over the next 12, 24 months? Where do you see Limor going within this very exciting, fast-growing world of social audio?
So my vision, which is very important for any person or business who has a plan for a business or a career or something like that, was always to make Limor the number one social audio platform in the world. That's my vision. Shoot for the stars and I'll hit the moon. But you can add a little caveat to that to be the world's leading AI-powered social audio platform. I can't go into too much detail about that, but we're working at a very, very exciting relationship with an incredible company in the space of AI. They're an engine and an API. And again, that's the company that have exposed me what's going down the line, and it is literally Star Trek level stuff, Tony Stark level technology. And we're going to be working with them moving into 2024 to take the Limor platform to the next level, podcasting, social audio to the next level, to again make it accessible. That's the whole thing, for everyone to get involved if they wish to do so, and bring this Irish company to the world stage.
Well, we're very interested to watch the journey of both Limor and of social audio in general. I think it's fabulous that we've got a company based here, in Ireland, that's leading the way in this. And just the whole ethos of this podcast is digital self-empowerment. I think the tools that Limor are making and the world of social audio definitely brings the digital world in that direction. So Shane, great to talk to you today. Thanks very much, and best of luck with everything with Limor.
No, it was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.